I do hope Kevin understands that last year's losing, it was that locker room that's losing.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you think so. The cut up of Stefanski having, somebody did it online. It was a montage of like 20 different press conferences where he's like, "That's frustrating. That's frustrating. Hey. I'm frustrated. It's frustrating."
Hey, we're owning this loss.
I kind of love the idea that people are just zoning in on Stefanski doesn't care one way or another with these. I mean, he cares. At the heart of it, he cares. But his messaging it's never different in any of these press conferences. He never says anything new. He never says anything inventive. It's all the same stuff we've already heard.
You know, I've been on this train for a while. If you want to be, captain say nothing, that's totally fine when you're winning. Or honestly, when you're like passively competitive. But when you get smoked, there's a time to say something and there's a time to stand for something, because I'm going to go ahead and say that Kevin's messaging internally is very similar to his messaging externally. And that doesn't mean they don't hold guys accountable. What I mean is there's a lot of, hey, we just got to own this one. They didn't. They got beat 41-17.
Well, even owning it sometimes isn't the greatest thing either. Just like that alone doesn't take you off the hook.
Yes.
Just because you say "my bad" and you pat your chest doesn't mean that all of a sudden everything's clean and good.
Except when it's on this show.
Except when Mac does it. Exactly right.
When Mac does it,
right.
Or I do it, or you do it, or Jake Murrin does it. Not when the milkman Anthony Lamb does it.
We might have to rethink that whole process though, because it really doesn't take it away. It really doesn't.
But they're saying "my bad."
I know they've acknowledged that it's their bad.
What more?
I know.
What if the entire Browns locker room came out, met with the media, and then at once you just heard...
You just
heard the double tap of the chest, like, our bad.
Yeah.
Well, that totally unscrews that pooch from yesterday.
It always bothers me. It's like no, what you did, you still messed up. You still made a mistake.
Let me ask you, when the baby girl comes to you and says, "Dad, I've made a mistake," don't we go, well, owning it's half the problem?
Half the problem, not the whole problem.
Yeah, but half the problem, and that's the only half that matters.
And then we have to work through the ways that you learn from it. And then hopefully then you don't have the problem strike twice is the idea. When you have the problem striking multiple times, that's when we have an issue, because you're not actually learning from anything.
All right, this makes a lot of sense. But what if it was just about the owning it? Well, we just forgot about the follow-through.
I think the point is that we can't forget about just the owning it is the problem. And that's what we see. Stefanski gets up at the podium and he's like, "I'm frustrated." Great. I'm glad you're frustrated. We're all frustrated. Thank you. Can you do something about it?
So
you've had 6 years. Do something about it, please.
Here's the frustrating part, is that if I'm Kevin Stefanski, Joe Flacco's performance yesterday only proves the point and why I have locked him into a small box and said, "Don't do anything other than this."
Well, he's scared to let Joe Flacco be Joe Flacco, and I understand why. I think we all understand the reasons why. It also kind of speaks to the idea that Stefanski knew Joe Flacco was not going to be some sort of answer. He knew it. He was he's dealing with the cards that he's been dealt currently, and he's trying to make it all work. But if anything, this almost makes me feel bad. Not that Kenny Pickett is the answer in any sort of way, but this clearly shows you that he wanted Kenny Pickett to be the guy.
I think at some point with this offense, you either need to let Joe be Joe and live with the pros and cons of that, or you need to let somebody run a different offense. Meaning, like an offense that's more suited to their nature. This is not entirely suited to Joe. I don't know the Wiggins interception happens if you had given him more, and this is not a criticism of Kevin, because Kevin's just trying to do what's right for the team, and if you lost a lot last year because of interceptions, I get that you look at Joe as a walking interception. But at some point, you either got to pull the governor off Joe or you got to pull Joe. That is, and we're getting dangerously close to that after yesterday.
This is where I really do think Stefanski believed that he could just outsmart his way to wins. I think he's got enough hubris. I think he thinks highly enough of his football intelligence and standard intelligence that I think he thinks he can just go ahead and he can win games with a lesser hand. And I think that's what the Cincinnati game only confirmed that to him. It's like, I was right there. We had it. All just a kick. Make your kicks, and we win that game. And so then he went into this game not understanding that Baltimore is not Cincinnati, and you can't do that.
It's the axiom that I absolutely do believe in. You either coach it or you allow it. Now, that does not extend to Browns players talking. I don't think that's why you got your ass beat. I think you got your ass beat because you talked a big game, but you didn't really believe you could do it. That has nothing to do with the talking, and that's more with the follow-through.
I think that's why they were talking the way they were talking, is they were trying to convince themselves that they could do it.
But when it comes to all the little self-defeating penalties and all that, it's tough to really push back on any of them today because it just has been so commonplace, especially in the last year and a half of the Kevin Stefanski era.
Well, and that's the problem, right? Is that like I feel like at the end of these games, we're oftentimes being like, well, that wasn't Stefanski's fault for reasons X, Y, and Z, and they make sense at the moment. They really do. But in the big picture, he just continues to lose and have these type of games. Like they pop up, even like the game against Cincinnati. That the weird flukiness attached to it all, it just follows him, and I'm not able to pinpoint why that is. I wish I could. The Browns probably wish they could too. It just these type of games follow Stefanski.
I do think that one of the overwhelming reaction is the offense is terrible. Correct on all counts. I think the problem is the answer feels like everything, meaning the answer to the question of what's the biggest issue on offense feels like everything for the Browns. You can't fix everything. Mm-hmm. So it becomes, all right, what is the number one glaring issue? I don't know I'm bold enough to say there's actually one thing that leads. Do you have one thing that you say?
You're just saying from the offense in general?
Yes, like what's the biggest thing holding the offense back?
Well, so what was interesting to me this last week was that it felt like we didn't have wide receivers open, which is typically a thing that we have in a Stefanski offense. Mm-hmm. There's wide receivers that are always open, and I'm worried that as we move forward with this season, I'm worried that Jerry Jeudy's going to continue to have the drops that he has. Tillman's going to be the guy that he was last year, and not the 3-game stretch where everyone was like, oh, maybe he's turned it around, and we just don't have the pass catchers in total. But it's got to be, all that aside, it's got to be the offensive line.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you get to any other conclusion on this offense and don't go to the offensive line.
So this is ultimately going to be, and we will get to Dylan Gabriel versus Joe Flacco. That is a conversation that's going to happen probably coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. This is more of just like what's big picture, what's most wrong with the offense. But I do think the catch-22 right now, at least on Sunday, was I thought your offensive line did play better. I still don't think they played well enough to win. And so you've got an offensive line that's not playing well enough to win. I think they were better on the ground game, but maybe just the same, if not worse, on the pass pro. And then you've got a quarterback that just can't move. And so Joe is sitting back there. The receivers were very well covered on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then because the coverage was good, then the pass pro failed, and then Joe really can't move around quick enough. And I think it's easier to swap out one quarterback than 5 offensive linemen.
Well, yeah, my concern is that DeJuan Jones is just not good right now, and I don't know if it's because he lost a lot of weight. Like we kind of joked with him, he was better when he looked like a slot machine with a helmet, though. He just was. I don't know if it's the amount of space that he was taking up. I don't know if it's his footwork. Something has changed though, and so he's got to figure it out because you can't have your left tackle be what DeJuan Jones has been for 2 weeks.
I was glad that and I don't know that I entirely buy it, but when they were saying that DeJuan was missing time because of heat, which again. This is the best shape we've ever seen him, including at Ohio State.
And it was 75.
It was 75.
like people wore hoodies. They were wearing hoodies.
It feels a little bit like organization that doesn't want to confirm a guy got benched and they don't want to cop to the fact that they're juggling left tackles in the middle of the game. That's more what that felt like to me.
I think that's a fair read.
Man, I got to tell you. I just would not be juggling left tackles in the middle of games. Call me old-fashioned. Call me I'm not saying DeJuan's been good, but you're not juggling him with like a former first-round pick. Maybe KT Leviston's going to be somebody one day. Maybe he's Desmond Harrison. I don't freaking know at this point. Mm-hmm. But I know in the midst of a hugely important matchup with Baltimore, when you're like, should we swap out left tackles right now? Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to say that's antithetical to the offensive line playing well.
Yeah, it was hard. And then obviously you have the news with Conklin before the game, and he's not able to play, so your right and your left side just aren't there. And I thought Bitonio and Teller had nice games for themselves. I really did, but there needs to be more there.
It's funny. I thought they moved better. And actually, our guy Lance Reisland, I should say, he reminded me of this when he texted you and me some of his game thoughts. I thought the O-line moved better than they did a week before. But I actually disagree. I don't think Joel had a great game.
He was once again our highest rated. Not that it means anything. He was once again our highest rated on PFF.
Other than his chase down. His chase down was legitimately impressive. That's the best I've seen him move in like 3 years.
Yeah, that was cool.
But it was everything else that seemed to be problematic.
It just wasn't good enough. But my frustration with this isn't the same frustration that I have with other spots on the offense. even though it's some of the same notes that I'm trying to sing here, and that it was very predictable that you would have 4 guys 30-plus and older on an offensive line, and they wouldn't be able to be healthy the entire season long, or 4 guys and then basically a younger player at the most important spot at left tackle, and it just wouldn't go well. Like it was very easy to see this happening.
At least we didn't have to watch James Hudson implode yesterday, which was, I'll be honest, they should bring back helmet slapping. That is so much fun when a guy just winds up as hard as he can and just smacks a defender in the helmet. I know it's not fair to the defender. I know that can lead to real problems.
Yeah.
But I'll be damned if I don't hoop and holler every time it happens.
Oh, he's got a helmet on. He'll be fine.
And then the fact that James had the gall to be furious when he got benched, it was like, buddy, you're the first player since 2000 to be penalized 4 times on the same drive.
Were you here when he came in studio? Was that with you or no?
I don't think it was.
I'm blanking on that. Okay, because he came in studio and he had just a hellaciously bad stretch of football, and it took everything in my power not to be like, he was so bad at that point, but he was the swing tackle. It was what it was, and very nice guy though, very nice guy. But everyone in the room was like, we don't respect what you're doing right now.
Also, in fairness,
that was tough.
If you're putting him at left tackle, it's probably on you. I think he's more of a guard.
You saw he got benched yesterday.
When I've watched him play guard, he's pretty okay.
Did you see that? He got
Like
he got penalized benched 4 times, I think, in that drive.
Yeah, and then got pissed that when he got penalized 4 times on one drive. Again, hasn't happened since 2000.
Is that since 2000? How do you get penalized 4 times in the opening drive?
And gets benched.
You know how bad that is?
And then looked like he tried to murder Brian Dable. And it was like, Bubba, what are we doing here? You can't have that opening drive and then be like, you're taking me out? You can't take me out.
He had 40 penalty yards on the first drive.
You know what I love about it? And that is making me change tune on James Hudson. I actually love this. I love that he was so adamant and everything.
The helmet slap is the best part of the game.
4 flags later, he's still like, I deserve to be in this. This is my game. You can't bench me this soon.
You gotta let me earn the 5th one. 216-474-0092. What is the biggest issue for the Browns on offense? I think you and I agree it's the O-line, which is wild because I did feel like the O-line had a better performance. The problem is going into week 2 now, or coming off week 2, Joe Flacco's turnovers are nipping at the offensive line's heels right now.